Tony, do you have any other closing comments before you have to depart, leave us, and go to your next pressing matter? And I'm just so glad you took time to come and be with us and share all these amazingly powerful thoughts. Any closing comments?
Well, closing comment would be is that I'm going to reach out also to the fraternity about honoring him at this year's Grand Boule in honor of Joe Madison. There should be some kind of award. I would also give a shout out to Sirius Radio that they do a scholarship in Joe Madison's name, the Black Eagle. What are you going to do about it? And so I'm just throwing out some ideas and suggestions. And as I go, as I close, I just say it is such a blessing, and it's such words are just inadequate, Barbara and Daryl, what y'all do each and every day, every week on Tuesday on this radio to get the information out to our people. And so we applaud you and we salute you, and hopefully we'll see you in Phoenix, Arizona.
See you there. Thank you so much. You have been wonderful. Daryl, that you have a parting word for Tony also?
Oh, no, Tony knows how to really bring it home. I appreciate that. Tony, as you know, whatever help we can give you with regards to making any of the awards for Brother Madison come into play, we certainly will do it, and look forward to working with you. And again, I just close with that same thing. Joe Madison always said the difference between a moment is a movement is sacrifice. And let's be certain that we sacrifice to keep this movement going forward, even though Joe is no longer on the earth with us. Thanks so much, Tony.
Well,
Thank you, Tony.
I close, Barbara, I'd like to close with this. One of Joe's quotes was ignorance and conscientious stupidity. Mm-hmm. We signing off now. Talk to y'all later.
And that's an appropriate one for this moment. Thank you so much. And so, Daryl, that was so powerful. Everybody, please know that we just extend nothing but love to all of Joe Madison's friends, family, and all of us who loved him so much. And let's keep his spirit alive in the work that we do, and talking about the work that we do. Daryl, let's start talking about that 8th Circuit. Whoa! Last week, everyone, you might recall we did an entire show about calling out the forces, and we were focused on what was happening in the 8th Circuit, this attack on the Voting Rights Act that has occurred in the 8th Circuit through the judiciary, conservative judiciary trying to take away people's rights and freedoms to pursue justice when racial injustice in voting occurs. So right as we hung up the show, within the hour, the 8th Circuit announced that it would not rehear the bad decision of the lower court. So we want to talk about that, because we were like, you got to be kidding us when we saw this decision. And we have some amazing guests who have joined us to talk about this situation and to update everybody about what's happening with the 8th Circuit and this attack on the Voting Rights Act. And I am so happy to welcome to the show two amazing guests. One is the mighty Maureen Edelborn. She is a professor, and for us at Williams Mary, and for us at the Transformative Justice Coalition, she means so much because she's always been a leader among young activists. But she's one of our nation's foremost authorities on voting rights, and we are so grateful that she has joined us this morning. Hi, Maureen.
Hi, Barbara. It's always great to be on with you and Daryl.
Well, thank you for, adjusting your calendar and joining us, for this show. I'm also happy to welcome Daryl. Do you want to introduce Dianne Wilkerson? You know Dianne is always the powerhouse to join us on the show. Go ahead, Daryl.
Oh, absolutely, Barbara. Dianne Wilkerson is one of the two. I think that at this point with Igniting Change, Dianne Wilkerson doesn't even need an introduction. She's like the third co-host here. Not only is she the treasurer for the Transformative Justice Coalition, but she's the first African-American woman to serve as a state senator in the state of Massachusetts. Dianne, welcome home. Welcome home, Dianne.
Always a pleasure. So excited about the whole show today. The topic could not be more timely.
Amen. Thank you so much. So, Maureen, I know people are like, what did the Eighth Circuit do this time? It was bad enough what we've been talking about, but why don't you bring people totally up to date on what's happening with this case of the Arkansas NAACP versus Arkansas Board of Apportionment? Why don't you just bring everyone up to date and what happened last week, Tuesday?
Yes, absolutely, Barbara. So what happened was back in 2021, the Arkansas branch of the NAACP brought a lawsuit challenging Arkansas's district lines, arguing that it prevented Black voters from properly exercising their political power and preventing Black voters from electing the candidates of their choice. So the NAACP challenged the map under Section 2 of the Voting Rights Act, arguing that it was unconstitutional and unlawful vote dilution, arguing essentially for a new, more fair map. What happened, unfortunately, was that the court basically kicked the NAACP out of court. The court said that Section 2 of the Voting Rights Act does not contain a private right of action. In plain speak, what this means is that groups like the NAACP, individual voters, cannot bring any cause of action under the Voting Rights Act to enforce the Voting Rights Act. So in practicality, this means that in Arkansas, Iowa, Minnesota, Missouri, Nebraska, North Dakota, and South Dakota, plaintiffs, private citizens, and nonprofit groups who fight for our rights cannot bring a lawsuit to challenge any voting practice that violates the Voting Rights Act. So as litigators, activists, scholars got together to discuss how abhorrently unjust and abjectly wrong the opinion was, we decided to ask the court to reconsider their decision because it was so out of step with settled law and contrary to the legislative wishes of Congress and to modern-day understandings of the scope of the Voting Rights Act. We were really hopeful that the court would reverse their decision. Unfortunately, they didn't. So here we are. This case is on its way to SCOTUS, very likely, and voters in 8 states cannot vindicate their rights under the Voting Rights Act.
It's just outrageous that all these 7 states in the Eighth Circuit are now not able to vindicate their rights. Dianne, as a state senator, as a former state senator, as one of the mighty leaders in the Boston, Massachusetts community, when you heard about this case, what did you say? How did you react?
Well, Barbara, first, my response comes as a daughter of Arkansas. Many people don't know I was born in Pine Bluff, Arkansas.
That's right.
And so it's a constant reminder to me of the reason that my parents left, with the entire family, escaping. Actually, at that point, the Klan were public demons and devils. I say public because they still alive, but you don't see them in the way they were so visible in the 50s and 60s. And so what I thought about was, here we go again for the Lawyers Committee, for the NAACPs, the Transformative Justice Coalition is going to be leading this, because we have been leading in the silence, leading in the vacuum. When others are off and moving on to other things, it reminded me of how important. I so appreciate what Tony said at the end of his time about thanking. I thank God every day for the creation and the vision for Transformative Justice Coalition, because this matter, this is what the whole fight for democracy is all about. This is it. There's a lot of other conversation about parties and candidates. This is what the fight for democracy is all about. Everything we are and exist to be is to make sure that that Black people, brown and continually marginalized populations don't get left, when it is clearly in this environment popular to do so. We have a fight on our hands.
Amen. And it's a serious fight. Maureen, people get confused about what voting means in this country. People think it's just about, a popular candidate versus an unpopular candidate who can get the most votes. But they miss that it's about the courts. It's about who is, going to sit on those federal benches. When you are voting for senator, U.S. senator, they are going to be making those decisions about who sits on those federal benches. So how do you end up with this case, where in the first place, Maureen, nobody in the lower court at the district court level even raised the issue about, private right of action. The judge did it himself. He didn't even look at the merits of this horrible, racially gerrymandered district. Instead, he went on his own motion. We call that sua ponte, people. He on his own motion, without any briefing, without any requirements, decided that there was no private right of action in this case. And the full Eighth Circuit, is considered the most conservative circuit in the country. Of all of those 11 judges, I believe, Daryl, only four thought that this case should be absolutely thrown out, overruled as wrong. Maureen, how do you explain that? And how do people see that connection between our rights being threatened and curtailed and trying to take away from us, and this kind of, and their vote?
That's a great question, Barbara, with so many levels to it. I mean, I'll start with the first, which I think is the importance of judicial nominations. During Trump's term, unfortunately, he had the occasion to appoint a record number of conservative justices, rubber stamped with the Federalist Society stamp, to the judiciary. And these judges share a certain jurisprudence. They share a certain theory about voting rights, which is that, Black and brown people have been the, quote, special favorite of the law for so long. And now that we've had a Black president and racism is over, we no longer need the protections of the Voting Rights Act. But we do. And we do because we see that states are being more ingenious with their voter suppression efforts. And they're doubling down on maps that dilute the voting power of Black and brown people. So, number one, I'd say judicial nominations are incredibly important. And this is a presidential election year. We need Democrats on the court to enforce and strengthen the Voting Rights Act as it was intended. We don't need
all parties. All parties.
Right.
Let's not let the Republicans off. All parties, everybody, independent, whatever, sitting in the Senate, the U.S. Senate, should be enforcing and believing in the power of the Voting Rights Act. Nobody should be turning their backs on this act. I'm sorry. Go ahead, Maureen. I just got out of control.
No problem.
Daryl,
no
you're going to have to moderate more because I'm out of control on this one.
Yes, but you're right, Barbara. It's important to have judges who believe in the Voting Rights Act. And, what's so interesting about this case is that in 2021, in Brnovich versus DNC, where the court actually rubber stamped that Section 2 of the Voting Rights Act is constitutional, Justice Gorsuch and Thomas said in a footnote that they question whether individuals and nonprofits